Did you just know from the beginning you're going to be 50-50? How does the partnership work? Because some people say like, I would never do 50-50. Some people say I would never do partnerships. And some people do. And like from the looks of it, it works.
I feel like it's a rare thing that it works. We grew up together. And so we would always talk about starting different businesses together. And like, when you do that together, you do it 50-50. But it works really well for us. How we set up our partnership right now is we're both in the field and we each have our own tasks that we handle.
You each know what each one's doing, what we're responsible for. Welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business show. We are again in Kansas City, which is the same city where we kicked off the Cost of Doing Business podcast 2 years ago, June of 2022. It's good to be back out here again and catch up with you guys. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, yeah. Thanks for coming out.
Absolutely. Taking time. The whole job site's quiet right now. We're actually out here on the job site. Where,
you wouldn't guess it.
Where I saw some natural stone steps. You're doing a bunch of artificial turf. What are you getting into here?
You go for it, man.
Oh, man. Okay. So in the backyard, we're doing around 9,000 square feet of artificial turf. And then we're doing a finish of our landscape design that we had done around the rest of the property. This is kind of our final phase on this side, and then we're doing some raised privacy beds with unilock just to put some tall trees in and block the neighbors when it's the leaves are down. So nice. Yeah.
Well, give us an intro into Kindred. How'd you guys meet? How'd you guys get started in business? How long have you been in business? What's Kindred Outdoor look like for everybody listening?
Yeah. How long do you have? You know?
Well, I tell you what, kick it off with introducing yourselves, and then we'll get into the Kindred.
I'm Jack Kelly.
Not that Jack Kelly.
Not the Jack Kelly, but
no, that Jack Kelly. You're the Jack Kelly.
I'm the, but not that. I'm a Jack Kelly. Honored to share the name with a lot of cool people around, honestly, but namely one. And I don't know, I've never been an employee. I've always worked for myself or whatever, hustled around, doing goofy things. And that's sort of Kindred spawned from that, and got into mowing with Caleb when we were really, really young. Awesome.
Caleb?
Yeah, so I'm Caleb Creighton, and I've had a real job, and it sucks. So, yeah, so I went and, like, we mowed together when we were really young, like 14 and 12, and but went on from that and like whatever, went the path of getting a job and had a good one at FedEx. And then just like kept hearing about the cool things that you could do as Jack was still doing some smaller projects and things. And so he like pulled me back in and got me out of that life of grinding and working a lot of hours there to now working a lot of hours here.
I was gonna say, when were you working more or less hours?
I was working harder hours. I worked the night shift, and we worked like 12 or 13 hours overnight, so like 6 to 6 or 6 to 7. And then when I became like supervisor, then I worked from 2 to 10 or 2 to 12. And so those are harder hours for the family.
Yeah, no kidding. We worked night shift a couple times. We're out on projects till midnight a couple different times.
Oh, yeah.
That was early on. We call those the dark ages. Yeah. We tell our guys they're lucky they weren't here during the dark ages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And the clients were home?
Yeah.
Did they have kids trying to put them to sleep?
No, not those that we worked. Like, one of them had dogs, and so that's why we left. But no, one of them was like in the country, and we were taking out a bunch of trees. Okay. It's like that wasn't as big of a deal. Yeah. But we've learned, we've grown. We don't do that now.
Yeah, we've done the same thing. Yeah. Although that was on my project when I did that, like at my house. Like, did you see that video where we were laying papers at 3 a.m.?
Some call this up.
There's no bonding like that kind of bonding.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, you're tight after stuff like that.
Well, hey, one thing for sure, we made a memory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now when we look at that backyard, exactly. You're like, remember when we did it? Man, that was crazy.
Yeah. It's a beautiful space though, so that's worth staying
Well, thanks. So you guys were there.
Yeah.
So, well, how about, so you were working the job in FedEx, but you kind of started doing on your own?
No, so we started together.
Okay.
It was us and actually 2 guys who were getting ready to go to college. Okay. We all started mowing together. They were trying to make some summer money. and we just joined in with them. My dad has some rental properties, and those were our first properties. And he was actually generous enough to set all 4 of us up with a mower and everything we needed. So we got started like that, and then one of us got a real job. They went to college. I kept at it.
Okay, so you had started, then you went and got the job.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then I just, whatever. I was way younger than all of them, so I just kept doing it through high school, and just noticed that I was making more money than all my high school buddies, and wasn't super interested in pursuing engineering anymore, and spending 4 years of my life away from making money. So I just kind of accidentally committed to it, and then Caleb joined in. We just been rolling.
How long were you on your own?
Would have been like probably 3 years, something like that.
How old were you when you came back together?
That's a great question.
Can't say years. It's how old you were, I guess, but it's 3 years ago.
3, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've been together for 3 years now.
As a partnership.
As a
Yep.
partnership.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's the 2 of you as owners plus how many employees?
There's
Got
4 right now.
4 full-time, a part-timer starting tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And hiring, so if you know anybody.
Yeah, same here, if you know anybody. Cool, so, and when you came back together, were you still just doing mowing, or were you already doing other projects by then?
It was some miscellaneous landscape, but mostly just like what everybody starts with, mulch here, river rock there, swap out some plants. Most of it is stuff that crew of 3 of our guys would be in and out on a day or 2 now.
Right.
But we'd make it take a week. That's good.
And we would do like 3 days of maintenance and then 2 of landscaping.
Yeah,
That was
I know
our
a lot of
schedule,
guys
yeah.
that,
Schedule.
yeah. And then what you discover is your 2 days of landscaping created way more money than the 3 days of maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Usually, unless I bid the job.
Well, how did you bid jobs back then? What was your method?
Somebody I knew who owned a catering company said that they total all of their expenses and then double it, and that's what they charge. So I would total all the expenses and double
50%
it.
gross profit.
And if I knew that the client was lean, I might only go to 25% gross, or if the client was wealthy, we'd go up to 75%. There was no method to it. It was madness.
Wow. And were you making money at that point when you were using those methods?
I would say probably most of our money came from maintenance. Caleb and I, we would hustle. We would get, we would get a lot of lawns done in a day. Compared to what other people do, their volume, we were actually pretty low on volume. We were doing like 20 lawns, but our route density was next to nothing, and some of them were larger properties. But I don't know, I think most of our money really came from maintenance in those early days, because it was just the 2 of us, low overhead, and we just hustled. And then when we started bringing people on, it was eye-opening that our maintenance wasn't priced right either, because when they were producing at a normal rate rather than a desperate rate, it was, we didn't make anything off of maintenance either. So that was a rough year. When we were trying to grow landscape, we hired a couple guys for maintenance and realized that we weren't making money on either side.
Yeah, there is definitely a difference between the desperation, hustle, and grind from the founders or the owners to the, pricing your work right, that you can hire people and put them in, train them, do the job, and the company still makes money, But it takes so many ingredients to make it successful. Like, the training, pricing it right to begin with, knowing when you screw up. Like, there's so many ingredients that are required, and you miss any one of those ingredients, it can really hurt.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, usually the first indication that something is off, or it's not the first indication, but the first indication that gets our attention when we're just working 14-hour days is the fact that, cash flow is dwindling.
Yeah.
And then it's $1 million question of, what's going on? Like, why? Do I just go ahead, just arbitrarily kind of raise all my rates 10% or 20%? Or instead of being like, sometimes what's happening is, say you do 5 different services, and one of those services sucking dry all the profits that you make from the other 4.
Right.
And it's that's not priced correctly, but everything else is priced correctly. And so when you just arbitrarily raise your rates across everything, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like taking a pill to take a headache away instead of understanding what makes you get a headache, you know? Yeah, no, it's quite so tell me this, how does it, did you just know from the beginning you're going to be 50-50, or how does a partnership work?
Yeah. Want to take that?
Because some people say, like, I would never do 50-50. Some people say I would never do partnership. Some people do. And like, from the looks of it, it works.
Yeah, it definitely, I feel like it's a rare thing that it works. And like, yeah, I don't know. When we were growing up, like, we grew up together. And so we would always talk about starting different businesses together. And like, when you do that together, you do it 50-50. And so there wasn't like a lot of rhyme or reason behind like, at the moment, besides like, I'm leaving my job and I'm not willing to come if we're not going to be 50-50 on it, because like, that's what we've always talked about. And yeah, that's pretty much like where that came from and why it started that way. But it works really well for us. And so our typical, like how we set up our partnership right now is we're both in the field and we each have our own tasks that we handle. But like,
So you
all
have
of
clear
last
job
year,
descriptions.
it's pretty clear.
Or role, or like you each know what each one's doing, what
Yeah.
we're responsible for.
Yeah.
And so like last year, I was out of the field the whole year and Jack managed in the field. And then this year we're hoping to hire more employees and come both out all the time.
Okay.
And then those job descriptions or roles will.
So you have
change
an
and
operating
shift.
agreement. Yeah, which I would say is key. Did you have a mentor or somebody that said, hey, you need an operating agreement, or did you just know that you needed one?
I would say, like, sort of intuitively, just from sort of wise people in our lives. Both my grandpa and my dad are business owners and have had successful partnerships and things go south. And then also just podcasts, you know. I remember listening to the Ballard podcast, and he was just talking about what they have set up, Corey and his partner at Perfect Cut. And it's just like, okay, making things so it's just cut and dry. Nobody has to wonder. It's helpful even just to communicate to like my family. You know, it's like, why is he out of the field and you're still leading in the field and whatever? And it's like, we have an agreement, things are even, like it helps just like silence questions, I think.
I think what's key is don't leave anything open to interpretation. And when you go through the motions of doing an operating agreement, what you're essentially doing is not leaving anything open to interpretation. At least that's the goal. Maybe you miss something and you go back and add it, but like, you know, I think that's key, because when things are left open to interpretation, like let's say you both started off in the field, you kind of the expectation you're both pulling equal weight in the field, but then like just life and things happen and eventually one guy's kind of in the office more handling, you know, and then suddenly tensions can flare and it's like, well, I'm doing all the work. And it's like, well, that's what happens when you have the void of, let's sit around the table, let's talk about this, let's figure out a plan, and then let's stick to the plan.
Yep. I would say the communication aspect is huge. Like even things that we don't have in writing, we have conversations about. And just to talk through and hash out like, hey, this is starting to wear on me, or like, hey, I'm really overwhelmed in the office. And just understanding, like being willing to talk about things so we understand what each other's workloads are and, you know, what's going on in our heads too.
I've heard people equate partnerships in business to like marriage. Like it's very much the same, or at least that's what people that have made it in partnership, have made it successfully, have said. But like it's like you're looking out for each other, you know, and you are communicating, and you are, or like, okay, the lack thereof is what starts to cause problems.
Yeah, and it works that like we grew up together and like we're best friends and we want the other person to win and succeed.
Oh, that's huge.
It's not like, we talk about that a lot, of where a lot of people are gonna, I don't know, be greedy with either their money or their time or whatever and try to pull from the other person. And I feel like our partnership is a lot more of like trying to give instead, you know. So I think it makes a shift.
Is there any way that you could say, if this, I would not be a partner, or if that, I would recommend partnership? Like, is there personality traits or things that you would say, well, if that's your goal, or if that's what you're trying to do, like I wouldn't recommend it?
That's tough.
If you're trying to be a solo owner.
Or if you can't work with someone else,
Yeah.
or if you can't communicate.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you'd be a bad business owner if you had those traits anyways.
Yeah, right. Like it might be good to bring in a partner, and you have to learn. It's sort of like marriage, where you get into your first relationship and you actually, and just dating, and you end up growing so much because you learn all the bad stuff about you.
Right.
As long as you're a decent
You have to
person,
own it, like you're looking in the mirror. Yeah.
yeah. That it is revealing. Honestly, being in a partnership, that there's like motivation to accomplish more than you think you can, because you want to make sure, at least we want to make sure, that we're both pulling as much weight as the other guy. I think that's a common sentiment in our partnership, is like, I just have to make sure I'm doing as much as he is. Not that like we're trying to like cut corners so I don't, I want him to do less so I do less.
Right.
There you go.
Right. Moving on to Kindred, what is kind of your bread and butter type project?
It'd be artificial turf.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is what you're doing here.
Which order?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. We used to say that what we wanted it to be is like that outdoor living space, the patio in the back and all that.
Like
But-
the other Jack Kelly.
Like the other Jack Kelly. Which we definitely want to get into that, but yeah, our bread and butter is just turf. That's where.
How'd that happen?
Maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance.
Yeah.
We mowed for the building that, what was that? The supplier, their supplier's building.
Yeah. So we get our turf from Forever Lawn, and their local office. A buddy of mine hooked me up with the contract to mow it. That was before Caleb came back on, and then we mowed for them for several years, did leaf cleanups. He led a wall project for the owner, actually, which is just crazy that they ever had us work for them on turf stuff. That wall went way over budget, hit underground water, had to do a big change order for lots of extra gravel and drainage, but they're happy with the wall, and we've got a good thing going with them now, installing their turf, so it's very cool.
And did they provide the training and stuff for you too?
They did, yeah.
Like we had to pay to go to the training,
Okay.
but it was through them.
Yeah.
They provided the email address to sign up.
And then do they give you leads for it, or do they get leads, or is there no part of that from that brand?
Yeah, so we subcontract for them on a lot of commercial work.
Okay.
So we do a lot of playgrounds and canine facilities as a subcontracting relationship, and then we sell our own projects like this one. And just whatever, just to honor them and serve them. When we sell a turf job, it's their turf.
Yeah.
We're not pulling a turf from anybody else.
It's their turf, no pun intended, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's interesting, because I actually have never installed turf, although Tussie, I think, has done it a time or two on like those little mini golf thingies,
Yeah.
putting greens. But
Well,
when I
after
was
this, we'll go in the back.
yeah.
We'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I've seen Cruz Lawn at Cruz Lawn's boot camp. I've seen them put them in, but I've never actually done a real job. I just enjoyed working on the water features more.
Yeah.
What is one of the best pieces of advice that you've received?
It'd probably be for our partnership, just communication. Either that or the podcast of setting up an operating agreement. Like those are gonna be the two big ones.
Yeah.
Make things clear and communicate, and sign up for SynkedUP.
I love
That was
that.
a good one. Yeah.
Why though?
Because we never made any money before we signed up for SynkedUP.
Yeah.
Just the estimating, the budgeting, the job costing, like all of those things working together, make sure you make money.
Yeah.
Even on jobs like that we subcontract for, the prices is set. Like we help them set those prices, but once it goes out to bid, they're the final ones who send that. And so we can make sure that those make sense moving forwards and for those specific projects. Like we're going to St. Louis next week to do one, and I'm able to go through and plug in all the information that I need based off of the number that we've been given for the project and their breakouts of like different line items, and make sure it lines up with our business. So as we move forward in that relationship, the communication is always clear on that side too. And so we know what we're gonna net, we know how long it's gonna take the guys, and it all works out for a win.
So when you signed up, like, or when you were thinking of signing up, or when you first found out about it, wasn't it too expensive?
Yeah. we found out about it in the spring of 22, I think, and we couldn't afford it. We could have pulled together probably now and we would have bought it, but I just remember we are going to get this when we have the money.
Yeah. We used that spreadsheet, just a
We
free
did.
spreadsheet
Did you
for
really?
a little while.
The free spreadsheet?
The whole season. That's what we built.
That's
everything on.
amazing.
That's probably
That's
what got us
awesome.
through the rest of that season.
Yeah.
Still wasn't using it right, but it was at least something to help us charge a little more.
I'm really happy to hear that because, you throw that up there and you wonder if it's if anybody's doing anything with it, But yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was a big blessing to have that. That went from.
But no, I'm kind of asking the questions in jest because but at the same time I am interested in hearing your thought. What was your thought process? The chicken and egg scenario. So yes, it's expensive. On the flip side, I hear a lot of people that begin using it say oh man, I wish I'd had it from day one. And so when is the right time?
For us, it had been right when we found out about it.
Yeah.
When we thought it was
You're meaning you would have figured it out, how to pull the money together somewhere and done it.
I would have taken my personal debit card and put it in there at this point and been able to pay myself back at the end of that week. The next project that we bid, it would have paid ourselves back. Just because there were so many things that we didn't know. We ran through the software, the spreadsheet, and we thought we knew them, but even in that, there's still things you're gonna miss, I feel like, just because it's not as in-depth and it's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, because at the end, it's a formula, and it depends on your inputs to give you accurate outputs. And there's so many ways you can not catch things in your inputs that give you maybe a better output than what you were operating on, but still not the whole thing. Yeah.
I'd say probably 90% of the inputs in that spreadsheet were just based off of Google searches of what's average. Because just because we hadn't tracked anything, we didn't even track hours. It was just because it was mostly just us. And then we would just pay our guys. We just track hours, manually basically.
I see. So you had no data to go back and look.
Nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you're literally saying this guy works for us 9 months out of the year, works about 50 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. So and you're coming up with it like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is better than nothing. That's where you start. But then, like you said, begin tracking so you can actually next year have accurate inputs.
Yeah.
And it was helpful to have that spreadsheet and to do all that guesswork because it made us ready for the software when we got it.
Mm-hmm.
We knew the information because we've been tracking it a little more diligently through the season.
Yep.
But it all would have been done in the software anyways if we just had gotten it, And so that's been the biggest game changer for our business besides our machines.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love hearing that. And, we just come on and do these podcasts and you never quite know where the conversation's going to go. And I don't want this to be an infomercial, but at the same time, I do want to hear those stories because it doesn't matter what I say, I'm still wearing a SynkedUP shirt at the end of the day. And so that immediately makes me suspect. Well, yeah, of course you would say what you say. But when you guys say, when our customers say these things, it's powerful. And, there are so many people out there living in the state that you were using that spreadsheet or before the spreadsheet. And when they see what we do at SynkedUP, it's well, cool, but that must be for bigger companies, or I could never afford that. And I think one of my favorite comments I ever saw from a SynkedUP user was this was a guy that signed up for SynkedUP the very same day or same month or whatever that he got his LLC. Yeah. He knew about, he was following Tussie, he knew what we were doing, and he was just going out on his own, got his LLC, signed up for SynkedUp.
Nice.
And
That's the way to do it.
yeah, and his comment, somebody else was, I forget where it was, on Facebook somewhere, somebody was asking, is it worth the money? And he was saying, well, sure, it was expensive. We spent money we didn't have, kind of to your point. You spent money you didn't have, but what this guy said was, it would have been more expensive to not get it. And so many times we're tripping over logs and picking up toothpicks, it's like we're saving $400 a month, but we're losing $4,000 a month,
Yeah.
And so what's more expensive or what's more hard, paying for a tool? And at the end of the day, I don't believe in twisting arms. Either you see the value or you don't. And if SynkedUP is a business as well. If I could give it to everybody and until they can figure it out, I would. But at the end of the day, we got a staff and support and we're just not at the point yet where we can do that. My goal would be as we mature as a company, we make it more and more attainable to, fine, I know you're not going to see the value yet, but start at $50 a month or something. And, that'd be awesome. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who has the software who's been upset that the cost that it is, because they make it back, but also the team that you guys have, it's worth the customer service experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
To pay that anyways.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you say that. And our customer service team is they throw their hearts and souls into their work, and they care deeply, and I'm really proud of that. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm sure you see this in your employees too. It's pretty awesome when you see your team take pride in the work they do, and it's great. But yeah, you're right. Like I would say the average SynkedUP customer spends $4,000 to $5,000 a year. $400 a month, $500 a month, somewhere in that range. And it's tough to make this totally clean data driven, but just off of a gut feel, the average customer turns that into 50, 100 plus grand in return in the first year of using it. Because it's not only are you fixing your numbers, but you also know when you screw up before you see it in your cash flow. And you got the support network of how do I build a template so I just can turn an hour-long estimate building process into 10 minutes or whatever. And so we help you with that, or we look over your shoulder on the budget. There's just so many ways that a business can be bleeding cash, so to speak, that, whether you look at it from a time-saving aspect, or whether you look at it from now I'm finally charging right, or whether you look at it from now I know when I screw up or not, or whether you look at it from cool, I can call somebody to have them sanity check my estimate if I want to, or my budget if I want to, but anyway, I digress. What about you, Jack? What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Man, I would say I totally agree with Caleb on the communication one.
Yeah.
From wise people in our lives and from the podcast. And I would say I probably speak for both of us on this, is just submitting our lives to the Lord. That we're both Christians, and that's the key. I would say that's a cornerstone in our partnership too. It's just a cornerstone in life because it's part of our identity, and so that has been the biggest advice, is that I probably wouldn't have stuck with the business if I was just making impulsive decisions, but everything is run through a lot of thought and a lot of prayer, and including business decisions now. And so that's probably the best advice.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's you can be successful in the world's eyes, but if you're not successful personally, spiritually, it's to what end?
Yep.
But no, thanks for sharing that.
For sure, yeah.
What's the most difficult challenge you've gone through?
Not making any money.
There was a lot of stress and tension because of that. Especially when you don't know what's going on. There's this temptation to be well, he's just not working hard enough, it's the guy in the field's fault, it's the guy in the office fault. We've switched roles a couple different times, and we have reached a point. I was sales and he was production for a while, and that was in the dark ages. And so I feel like I sort of didn't get my chance.
Yeah.
I did secure this client here, the first job that we did for them, and with the design and everything. That's my claim to I can hold my own in sales, because here we are, round 2, back out here. But Caleb blocked this one down.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, now he's in the office, or he was in the office, and I was in the field, and to have a good understanding of each other's situations that we've dealt with, it saves a lot of that tension. a lot of that judgment. But that was definitely a difficult, the struggle of not making money and not knowing why, and feeling like it could be one or both of us, you know.
And like not having the time outside of it. It's like it's not
That's
like
for
you're
sure.
working until 5 o'clock and you're done. It's like you working and you're losing your family time. You're getting the cold pizza, and then you're also still not making money.
Yeah.
You know, and
You
so
feel like you don't have time to diagnose it because you're just
Yeah,
running.
there's nothing more hopeless than somebody that has the work ethic, that's working hard, that wants to succeed, but isn't succeeding and doesn't know why.
yeah.
That is one of the most despairing positions to be in.
But they do good work, and so they keep getting clients, and they're booked way out, and they don't see an end in sight of like,
Yeah, it feels like you're on a hamster
I'm
wheel.
not gonna be able to think about this until the winter,
Yeah.
because we're just working.
And when you're not making money or things are going sideways, it's like, well, kind of the default response is, well, I'll just work harder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, probably to everybody listening.
Yeah,
It's like the exact same thing.
No, I appreciate that. We kind of touched on this probably a little bit already, but if you could go back to the very first day when you started working together, coming back, 3 years ago or whatever, what is 1, 2, 3 things that you would make sure that you're doing right then? What would you do? Basically what I'm asking is, what would you do differently?
Probably set those clear expectations within the partnership on day one, and set boundaries within work to life. I don't know, like you need to be able to see your family. I don't know about number 3 though. Those are like the 2 big ones. It's like set those boundaries and like set expectations right away and sell more projects.
At the right price.
Get out of maintenance sooner. Like don't hire the wrong people just because you need them or you think you need them. Like that would probably be the 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say probably number 1 would be, and it could be all encompassing, would be find a mentor who has a company that we respect and is similar to us. There's like this tendency to like look at other business people and things they've accomplished, and if it's not like the same or very similar business, to be like, oh, well, their industry is just different. They don't understand. We don't need those systems. Like that's manufacturing or that's technology. But at the end of the day, it's all business. But if we had access to somebody who had done what we're trying to do, and did it ethically and was thriving, that would have been a huge game changer for us. That they probably would have told us, here's the numbers that you need to track, and here's what that implies in your pricing, and also you're going to burn out if you keep working like this. And I do feel like we were blessed in our partnership to set mostly clear expectations, but it probably could have been clearer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hindsight is 20/20. But like, okay, so when you say set boundaries, like what do you mean?
Like not work until 7, 8 p.m. every night. Like that's more like us setting those together of what our work-life balance looks like.
Yeah.
Like having that flexibility. Like we have that now, but we didn't have it then. We worked until midnight or whatever, or 8 p.m. mowing all the time.
Yeah.
So just like setting those boundaries and having a realistic life that's not just your business, because like it can grow without that. Like it obviously takes the grind, not saying get rid of that, but just like having that boundary. So we like the only one that we've stuck to pretty well is like not working Sundays. Like we've worked 1 or 2 Sundays, I feel like, since we've started, and like that's a really good one to have. Be able to be in the community and everything, but like having that through the week too, I just think is really important.
Oh yeah.
No, I agree. Because it just comes back to the whole thing. What's the point of business if you're not? Well, Ben Martell, the guy that wrote that Buy Back Your Time book. I was at it was last summer. I was at one of his events, and he said, if you're not succeeding at home personally, then you can't succeed in business. And if business is robbing you of your ability to succeed at home, something's got to change. And I speak to myself. Like, the no more cold pizza thing. Although I must say it's getting it's been a lot better this year because of some of the contractors that have been manning booths for us at the shows.
Yeah.
I think last year I was on the road for 90 nights.
That's crazy.
Which is just, I'm not proud of that. It's just way too much. But this year, I'm currently up to 44 for the whole year, like on plan. So
Not
my
so
goal is
far.
to be under 50.
Yeah, it's like, but you're tracking for an increase this year.
No,
You're at 44
for the whole
so
year.
far.
Because I already have everything that's planned for, like the contractor summit. It's on there. Like all these events that are like they're on there. So, but I'd say probably till I add a few more podcasts, trip in, it'll probably be around 50. And that's my goal, is to, at least for now, and maybe I can even make it lower than that sometime. But yeah, it's all I'm saying is I have to practice what I preach to when it comes to thrive, not survive, and be thriving personally as well as in your business.
Yeah, like in your family.
Yeah.
Thrive, not survive in your
Yeah, because
family. not just
here's my goal.
business.
Yeah.
Here's my goal. I want my family to view the business as a source of the blessings that we get to enjoy together as a family, instead of a curse or a threat or a thief
Let's go.
of everything that we wish we could enjoy as a family. But there's a discipline aspect to this too, because it's like, I don't know, like you can only work till 5, but then if you go home and scroll Instagram or aren't present or aren't stepping up to be the dad or the mom that or the spouse that you should be, then it's like just not working isn't enough. It also takes the discipline of the same way we bring discipline, how can we get better and what's our KPIs and the things we watch on business. We got to bring that same grit, so to speak, to, I believe, being the best version of ourselves, like having personal standards. Like, no, I'm not gonna sit on my phone when my kids are bouncing on the living room floor, wishing that they could play a game or something. It's like, and I see it in myself. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm in meetings all day. It's like 6 o'clock rolls around, dinner's ready, and I haven't even caught up I haven't even looked at my phone in 10 hours, and then you feel like you have to catch up, and that just comes back to the whole thing of you gotta plan, because if you're reactive to everything, I'm speaking to myself, guys, if you're reactive to everything, then you're just on a tailspin. You're hanging on for dear life. And I think one of the biggest things, back to this thing, well, know your numbers in a different way. Yeah. One of the things is like, if you're not going to be, you're going to be reactive by default. So it takes intentional effort to not be reactive and to be proactive. And so one of the things was, first year or two, I was like, this is out of control. This is not working from a, work-life balance thing. So I was like, well, I don't even know how many nights I am I don't even know. So let me start tracking that. So I start tracking that, and then this was a Dan Martell thing in the Buy Back Your Time book. And Greg Wistock, the owner of Aquascape, he was also kicking me in the butt to do this. Basically, get this calendar on one page, and then I'll show it to you. I have it on my laptop, and then you design your life instead of react to it. So if somebody says, hey, let's go do this thing, or come help us on this thing over here, or let's go on family vacation, but if you don't ever put it, we want to go on family vacation this summer. Well, guess what? October rolls around. So you know what? We never went. But if you design your life, I'm meaning be like, what's your 10-year goals, 5-year goals? Then, okay, what do I want to get done this year? And then put that in the calendar. And then everything else has to flow around it. Yeah. So that's one of the things, design your calendar, design your life, as opposed to just reacting all the time. If you're reacting all the time, well, yeah, it's going to take some serious intentionality and discipline to snap out of that. And I'm in the middle of that right there. The intentionality, the discipline, the snap out. The snap hasn't quite happened yet, but we're getting there.
The recognition is there. That's the same. It's the same as us, preaching the choir.
But anyway, that was, I know I was rambling for a while there, but no, I was just inspired, with the stories you're sharing of I know the struggle. Mm-hmm. It's normal, but just don't look up in 30 years and be like, yeah, but I never did anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and even to take that a step further, it's interesting. like when you go so far as to work on jobs until midnight or lay pavers at 3 a.m., whatever, that when you dial back from that and now it's just like I'm home by 6, but I'm still on my computer for another couple hours or whatever, that it's like your family has a different set of expectations than you do, and I don't have kids yet. You have a baby, super cute. But like, you got to be so intentional that like you're not just meeting your own expectations, but those of the people that you love most. That they need, you may be more intentional than you were, but not as intentional as you ought to be. So I don't know, it comes in waves for sure. It's one step at a time too, because we've dialed back from the midnights, that's for sure, but there's still more to rein in.
And it is true, like you can't, it is an iterative thing. Like it's not like you can go out there and start a business and expect, oh, cool, man, I'm home by 4 and,
I've set my boundaries.
Nothing else to worry about.
Yeah, set my boundaries. Like it is a bit of a, there are seasons to life is what I'm saying.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
But just don't let those seasons become permanent. Don't let the bad parts of the seasons become permanent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like my wife and I talk about that of like, this is a season that we're in, and like we've gone through those as we have the business.
Yeah, and if you can recognize the fact that this is a season, you look at each other, and you're like, we're good with making this sacrifice, and we're putting our heads to the to the grind, our noses to the grindstone together. That's way more, I don't know, inspiring or hopeful or bearable than just like the blind, there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
It's like a season doesn't last 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
A season is a season.
And yeah, it's like you're saying, plan your life. Like the season is part of the plan. We've agreed together that.
Yeah, it's way different if you've
doing.
agreed together to take a sacrifice together or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
This is good because it comes back to what's the point of winning in business if you lose everything else?
Oh, yeah. The title of the podcast.
There
you go. There's the title. Thanks. That makes my job easy. Mr. Producer, there it is. You don't even need to ask me what the title is.
It's going to be a counseling session versus a business.
And if you wanted to go viral, just say with Jack Kelly.
Yeah. The Jack Kelly.
That's right.
Well, guys, thanks a million for having me out here on your job site and coming onto the podcast, and for putting your your faith and trust into SynkedUP. Personally, I kind of feel the weight of that. Like, all these, every time somebody signs up, like they're casting their vote that we can help them overcome whatever they perceive to be their block, and like that is sobering. And probably the thing that messes with me the most is when on day 1, they're like, oh, this is going to be awesome. We want it. And then on day 90, they're like, we can't, like, they're not showing up, they're not logging in, they're not using it. That happens. And it's a discipline. I get it. Like, life does happen, and things don't always go according to plan. But that's probably the thing that it creates the most feeling of, like, I lost, right? Not I lost, but, like, I failed. Yeah. Like, the dejection or the defeat of, like, this person said they wanted something, they believed we could help them solve that problem, and then, that didn't happen. And so anyway, I just want to say thanks for putting your faith and trust in us, and I love seeing the results that you guys are having. And I can say it's a proven process. If you follow the process, it'll work. And you guys are following the process. I mean, it's as simple as that. And appreciate your support and being part of the SynkedUP crew. It's awesome to have you. It's kind of cool how developing kind of a bit of our own community. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like the contractor summit, you guys were there, and
Dinner last night.
Yeah. Funny story on the dinner last night. So, I had an Instagram group, the SynkedUP users from Kansas City, and from 2 years ago when I was out here. And I went back there like, hey guys, I'm coming to town. They're like, let's do something. I'm like, oh wait, there's not nearly everybody's on here. So I was going onto the map, but like, well, this guy's missing. You guys weren't even on it. And so like we had to throw a bunch of other people on there. But no, that's just awesome. Like to be able to fly into a city and have a brotherhood or a group that comes together and has the kind of experiences like we did last night and are having now. It's awesome. I just want to say thank you for that, and we appreciate that, and we are excited to yeah, continue partnering up with you guys in your what is sure to be success in your future. So
Yeah, thank you for all that you do and your team. Like, we really appreciate it. Those 90 nights on the road, like, we wouldn't have SynkedUP without those. So, like, your family sacrificed in that season, but we're definitely thankful for that because our family gets to enjoy this season. And so, yeah, and we get to make more money. So that's what it all comes down to. So all your guys' spreadsheets that you have, like, you're not making as much money as you deserve. And so
thanks, man.
meet with this guy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.